let's get to the main event. These guys up here, we are blessed to have them perform for us. This is a big deal, and I mean it. They perform regularly at the Winters Jazz Club downtown River North. Anybody have ever been to Winters? One. Okay. The Winters Club is a jewel. It is just the neatest little club. It holds, I believe, 100 people. Is that right, Michael?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's very intimate. If you get one of the tables close to the stage, if you've never performed in an ensemble, this is about as close as you will get to it. So what we have here is the Michael Larrick Jazz Ensemble. As I said, they play, in big name clubs in this town. And they're going to do their Benny Goodman tribute. So, Michael, it's all yours.
One, two, three, four.
Thank you very much. Meet Jim Sellers on piano, Paul Morrell on bass, and Greg Fundas on drums. So we're going to do a little tribute to Benny Goodman today. And this next number is a little bit of different treatment of one of his many hits. We took this off of on Eddie Daniels, who's a wonderful clarinetist, one of his albums. This is his version of Moonglow. Thank you. A lot of people really don't know too much about Benny Goodman's notorious absent-mindedness, rather. Like one time he was having a rehearsal at his studio in his house, excuse me, and the musicians were saying, Benny, it's kind of cold in here. And he said, you know, you're right. He went out to his house and came back wearing a sweater. We're going to do a number now that was associated with him and with Lionel Hampton. As a matter of fact, this became Lionel Hampton's theme song. Here's Flying Home.
One, two, three, four.
1938, January, Benny was the first person first jazz musician to perform in Carnegie Hall. And it was pretty successful, I'd have to say. One of the great lines that came out of that was from Harry James. When they asked Harry James what he thought about playing in Carnegie Hall, he said that he felt like he was a whore in church. Here's the opening song for that. Here's Don't Be That Way. Um, 1942 was the year that Frank Sinatra went out on his own. He left the Dorsey Band, and he wanted to try it as a solo act. Well, I guess it paid off. But his first performance was on New Year's Eve Day at the Paramount Theater, backed up by Benny Goodman and his orchestra. And Benny really wasn't used to not having a singer singing the second chorus of the song and not really being the star, even though he had quite a few wonderful singers in his band. So Benny does his set, and they're playing the finish of Sing, Sing, Sing. And the announcer gets ready, and Benny turns to the band with his hands up because he was going to conduct for Sinatra through the 4 or 5 songs he was going to do. And the announcer says, "Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Sinatra," and that all the Bobby Soxers went nuts. They were screaming and cheering and screaming and cheering. Finally, it subsides. And then he's about to give the count where all of a sudden there's this god-awful shriek that comes through the theater and was a live sound. Without missing a beat, then he turns around and goes, "What the expletive was that?" Throughout the whole theater. And the word begins with an F. Through the whole theater. Sinatra said they laughed throughout his first 5 songs. He said it was the best intro that he ever had into performing on his own. We're going to do one of Benny's offshoots of the era of Dixieland. Here's After You've Gone.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You never know when I'm gonna throw that in there. But as you know, that was ending of Rhapsody in Blue. When George Gershwin died, and they came back from his memorial, I looked on his record player. And it was the 1936 recording by the Benny Goodman Trio of Old Lady Be Good. And the interesting thing was, from 1937 on, if you look at history, Gershwin never heard Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, really never heard Tommy Dorsey's band the way it came. So this one is kind of special in the annals of music history. Here's Lady Be Good.
One, two, three, four.
This is the only time I'm going to copy Benny Goodman, I hope. Thank you. Thank you very much. 1945 basically saw the end to Benny Goodman having any more big band arrangements written out. No more. He didn't want to play jazz anymore. He was responsible for the last half of the 20th century to having most of the classical literature written for clarinet. From Aaron Copland to Hindemith, and he would travel around the country. He had a 3-year requirement that he would commission these pieces, but he could play them only for 3 years. Nobody else could touch it. So basically, coming out of the jazz experience like he had, he felt that he was somewhat limited in comparison to the great classical clarinet players, but it wasn't true. But he went for lessons. At the age of like 50, he decided to go to lessons. And from London, a clarinetist who was the principal with the London Philharmonic had moved to New York. His name was Reginald Kell. And Benny approached him to study with him. And Benny walked in, and the first thing they talked about, Benny said, well, Reginald, when do you master this thing? When do you master it? And Kell asked him, he said, well, do you still practice? He said, yeah, I do, about 8 to 10 hours a day, which was true. Even in between shows, when other guys were running around or Artie Shaw was chasing girls, Benny sat in the room and practiced and practiced and practiced. And Kell said, 8 to 10 hours a day. And he said, yeah. And he said, well, Kell looked at him and said, well, don't you think it mastered you? We're going to close with a little swinging version of Sweet Georgia Brown. We hope you had a great time. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Jim Sellers on piano, Paul Morar on bass, and Greg Fundus on drums. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Bob, Q&A? Q&A. Have a seat, guys. We've got some questions. Anybody raise your hand if you have a question for the group. Ma'am.
Where was Benny Goodman from?
Chicago, West Side.
West Side Chicago,
West Side of
Austin group.
Chicago. Austin High.
Did you take up the clarinet because of Benny Goodman, and was he the best or near the best?
No, I took up clarinet because of my father. He gave me clarinet because of Benny Goodman. And was he the best? That's, wow. You have to understand the eras. Okay, like for instance, a lot of musicians feel that Artie Shaw was the best. You know, Artie Shaw was a master, probably a little bit more advanced in his improvisations, which was one of, like, for instance, Artie only wanted to develop. And their story has it that a woman came up to him on the job and said, "You haven't played Begin to Begin yet." And he looked at her and he said, "Here, you play it," and handed her the clarinet and left. So it's a tough question to answer, but I think the whole world, even from Stanley Drucker on down, who was the principal of New York Philharmonic, picked up the clarinet because of Benny Goodman. Anybody else?
Yes. What was the name of the tune right before the last one?
Memories of You.
I've been watching carefully. You're such a terrific group. And by the way, we have one of the largest groups that we've had in a couple of years here today, and on Zoom, a total of 95. So that was outstanding. Thank you for that.
Thank you. That's nice. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I was paying attention to your accordionist.
If you weren't Joe's brother, we would have a fight.
I think he's cheating. I mean, I have to stand up. He's sitting down.
Right?
He's got his thing on horizontal.
Right?
I got to play vertical.
Right?
He doesn't have any buttons he's got to press.
No.
So that's why he sounded so much better than me.
You kind of look like Lawrence Welchville.
Outstanding group. A question over here, sir.
Can you hear? Can you? Oh, okay, got that. How have the jazz clubs in the Chicago area done since the pandemic?
Not good. They weren't doing that great before the pandemic either.
Is the Green Mill still around?
Oh, yes. Yes, but they booked specifically the same act every night. The great, that's the great Jerry Lewis story, right? The Green Mill. Remember the comedian Jerry Lewis?
Yes.
He's the one who wanted to leave there, but Jack McGurn said, "No way." And Capone and him had a little discussion.
And do you perform around the country, or are you?
No, here, primarily here, yeah. Yeah.
Well, it was
You know about Lawrence Welk, I mentioned Lawrence Welk in your accordion. He has a great story where he stood up in front of his live audience or TV audience and said, "And now we're going to do a medley of tunes from World War I."
Tell us again where you are playing, where the group plays.
We play at Winters Jazz Club. We'll be there on October 26th. October 20th, we're at this beautiful new place called the Epiphany Center for the Arts, 201 South Ashland, and pretty much whoever calls. So,
We have another question?
I don't have a question. I just want to say this concert was one of the best that I've been to.
Thank
It
you.
is wonderful. It was
Thank
like
you.
all those wonderful songs, those great old standards.
Yeah, they're
and
great.
A lot of memories. And that was even before my time, but it was just wonderful. And I want to thank you all.
Well,
Most enjoyable.
the interesting thing
You're a
about
professional food.
Thank you. One of the interesting things about Benny Goodman was, so much notoriety went to Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in 1947 in baseball. What few people talk about anymore is that in 1935, Benny Goodman hired Teddy Wilson, and in 1936, he hired Lionel Hampton. So he broke the color barrier in popular music, and he was the king. basically, in 12 years before Jackie Robinson. And he basically said, it takes white keys and black keys to play music on a piano. Okay, you done?
One last question.
Go ahead.
I have it. Okay, from an accordionist. I basically am interested in, Mike, what you consider to be some of the better composers that you feel really lend themselves well. And I'll mention that, did you know that Mozart, when he wrote his music, classical music, when he played it, he actually modified it and made augmentations so that he was one of the first jazz musicians.
Gee, you must have been there.
There's a couple people here that are driving in their 90s, so I think that.
Now supposedly Bach did that. I didn't know Mozart did that.
Mozart did that as well.
I didn't know that. I did
But
not know
I'm
that.
asking, I mean, I like Duke Ellington's
Oh, yeah.
music and
Yeah.
Gershwin, of course.
Yeah.
Your homage to Gershwin as you ended.
Well, there's
one
no
of the
one greater
songs.
as far as I'm concerned.
But do you have any other favorites that you
Cole
want to
Porter.
share?
Cole Porter,
And then I'm.
Harold Arlen, who wrote Over the Rainbow. You know, as a matter of fact, one quick story on Over the Rainbow, the score of The Wizard of Oz, Harold Arlen wrote it, was written on Gershwin's piano. He went over to Ira's house and he wrote it, and Harold Arlen swore that the piano wrote itself. Thank you all. Thank you very much.